That you have learned how to implement different methods, let me introduce you to a technique called object tracing technique, which helps you understand what a method implementation does. Let's say we have a couple of methods which do some work that you may not understand so easily. Here is what you do. Pick some scenarios that exercises these methods. Here we are creating a car object, and then I'm adding some fuel to it, and then I'm driving it a little bit, and then I'm driving a little bit more. Suppose I want to understand what these method calls do to the car. So we are going to create a sort of this table, or we can use some index cards or on a paper, or we can use some computer table. Basically here we make these columns based on the number of variables that we want to analyze here. So let us say the first time it gets created is this car object is getting constructed, and this car class contains three instance variables that are fuel in tank, miles driven, and miles per liter. So these are the three columns for three instance variables of my car class. And then let's say we are starting here. When this constructor is called, then the value that we are passing as parameter is the miles per liter. So the initialization happened at constructor is fuel in tank is 0, miles driven is 0, and then miles per liter as passed from the parameter is 10. Let's move to the next step. The next step is that we are calling this method called add fuel on my new car object, and I'm passing this 30 value. So let's go to this add fuel method. When it goes to add fuel method, this value 30 needs to be added to fuel in tank. So the updated value of fuel in tank becomes 30. Next step, it goes to drive method of my car object. In this there you can see the distance is a new variable which is available only for this drive method. It is a local variable. So let us create another piece of paper with two columns in it, one with the distance variable and another with another local variable that we will be using inside this drive method. For now, as we have passed this parameter as 10, so current distance is 10. When it goes inside the method, we are updating miles driven based on whatever distance we have received. So the new miles driven becomes 0 plus 10, that becomes 10. Next, the next statement tells us that we have to we are creating a new variable called fuel consumed, which is getting updated as 10 by 10, that becomes 1. So now the new value of fuel consumed is 1. Next, based on the fuel consumed value, we are updating fuel in tank, so the new value of fuel in tank becomes 30 minus 1, 29. Once this particular method call is complete, once all these statements are complete, these two variables that were local to this method are lost, and they will be gone from memory. Let us remove them, and then we go to the next step, that is another drive call on my car object with 20 as mileage this time. So we will go into the again we go to the drive start part. Again we have this new variable distance again, so let us maintain another piece of paper with distance, and this time distance is 20, and based on the new distance value, miles driven, which is an instance variable, gets updated with its previous value. The current miles driven value is 10, and 10 plus distance 20 becomes 30, so the new value of this miles driven becomes 30. And the next statement is to update fuel consumed based on current distance. Current distance is 20 by miles per liter, that is 10, so the new fuel consumed becomes 2. Based on the new fuel consumed value, we have to update fuel in tank, and the new fuel in tank becomes, the current value of fuel in tank is 29 minus 2, so the new value becomes 27. So this is how we can trace the execution of methods on a particular object to understand what actually happens when a method is called on objects.